Good morning. This is how our day starts. Suzanne coming to work, who's not normally here on Harvest Day, and just going to give a little look around while she gets in. And good morning. Hey, Kim. So Susie Q just arrived. You know, Suzanne doesn't, I'm the harvester these days, and she's come along so she can carry this camera and follow along with us today. Look out there. You know, the color, good morning, good gracious. The color is really beautiful this time of the year. Good morning, Peggy. So we're going to start off by, first off, it is only 68 degrees here. We were at 96 during the day here last week. So this is just a really pleasant surprise. And good morning, everybody. Sarah and Beverly and Yvonne and Susan and Katie. So not only did I start early this morning because I was afraid of the heat, you know, for me to have to kind of chit-chat while I'm cutting is really going to be even a little more challenging, but also the light. Good gracious, Jennifer and Joy and Yvonne and Karen and Elizabeth and Mark. So we're starting this early this morning because the light will be better. So as I'm going to water my trays first, and it'll be like a real live harvest. I mean, kind of exactly what I do for harvest. And where's Barry? And there's where she lays. I don't know if you can see her over there at the foot of the steps to the back of my house. She has already had her cookie, but because she didn't go in the house to get it, I brought it out to her. She's seeming to think that perhaps there's more coming. So what I want to say is I do things a lot differently now that I would consider myself a pretty small market farmer. No longer do I consider myself high production. So I'm just going to tell you while we're waiting for Suze, what the difference would be. So everybody came to work at 6 o'clock in the heat of summer. When they got here at 6 o'clock, typically I had two, either a small tractor and the golf cart, or two, you know, the big lawn tractors out to pull trailers, because we would fill trailers with buckets. What you're going to see happen this morning is I just use my golf cart. I use the tailgate, and I have a really specific reason why I have to come in and get buckets a couple of times during harvest usually. But what I find, because I harvest alone, is that filling 6 buckets, maybe 7 if I put one up front, to stop harvesting, come in, take the buckets in, get new buckets out, gives me a chance to kind of regroup. So here she is. So Suzanne is going to take over the camera. We have 45 people in here already.
Awesome. What are y'all doing up? There you are.
Oh, sorry. So let me get the golf cart and bring it over.
So, anybody on the West Coast up this morning? What time is it in the UK? 3 a.m. Good grief. Here she goes. Barry, you going to come and help us this morning? Huh? This is Rosie, our cart. Best gift ever from Steve, her husband. Good morning, Susan.
Okay, so as I was saying, back when we used to be a big high production farm, there would be a big trailer, like the same trailer that you see landscapers pull around. We have a couple of them here, and we would have those hooked up. So first, I'll show you what I do.
Hello, Michigan. Hello from the Ozarks.
Let's move this out of the way. And every morning usually starts with repackaging, moving stuff around. So you can see over here, this is where our buckets, We have a bucket washing station, which is behind Suzanne. She'll show you. It's just a big double laundry sink. And an important part of getting your buckets clean is letting them air dry. And so that's why they're staggered. And so again, back when we were high production, we have them stacked on top of bulb crates so that air can get to the bottom ones. We used to have the crates turned long way, so we'd have 2 layers of these, and the buckets would go all the way around here. So,
And we always check the buckets for frogs.
classically, we have some of those green tree frogs in our buckets. So I love these. These are all, if anybody has access to Chick-fil-A, we have Chick-fil-A owners in our family, and these buckets, some of these buckets are 15 years old. These tan ones that I just put over here are 15 years or over 15 years old. These I picked up at a place called Big Lots. I don't know if anybody has those around them. Went in there one day and they had these for like $2 a piece. And again, these are back when I was still Ziegler Gardens. That was a really long time ago. I always put on my harvest trailer a shorter bucket for several reasons. Today we are cutting for bouquet subscriptions and for our commercial customers. So Suzanne's going to need lots of filler for our bouquet. So we're going to cut some hydrangeas. So typically they aren't this tall. So I'll usually put a bucket about this size, and I usually just put it on the front of the cart. All right, step A is done. So now I'm gonna water these trays out here, and then I'm gonna fill my buckets and get us going. Because what I have learned, because harvest always takes longer than I think, and watering my seedlings, I've already watered the room inside. Watering the seedlings is the #1 job, because there is nothing like finishing harvest. You're dead at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you come in and you forgot to water and everything out here is wilted. There's nothing more discouraging. So, why can't somebody make a great hose and nozzle sprayer? I've tried every brand. Look at this. We don't even have the end part anymore. So I'm going to show you how I water my trays. Nobody else is allowed to use the hose to water our seedlings because if the sprayer got a little out of control, this is how I do it quickly. If the sprayer got a little out of control, you would blast the blocks to kingdom come. And this is just so much quicker. So this carport is angled, so water runs towards my lawn. So if you notice, I try to put the part of my tray that has this well that I'm filling into. See, this next tray is backwards. See how the well is over on this side, and that's because of where it's placed. So the water won't naturally run as well to all the full tray, so I'll have to come back and check that and make sure that happened. So instead of me doing the watering can method, this just makes it really, really fast. And you can see some of these celosias are not very happy. So this is the second round of seedlings, our second succession. And I'm just going fast now and just trying to get the job done so we can get started. What's hot and heavy on my mind on harvest day? It was really hot and heavy back in the day when I had a bunch of people working for me, is about getting out in the field and getting the job done. This is our third planting of tomatoes, peppers, and some ground cherries, is getting out in the field and getting at it, because I'm always concerned about the heat. And today that's not so much of a challenge. So I'm always thinking, move along, no chit-chatting. Okay, so I'm going to fill my buckets now, and we use the filling stick that has the line. That line is puppy paint. My book, Vegetables Love Flowers, tells you all about that. And I'm going to turn my hose up on full blast. And that mark is on 1 gallon for a 5-gallon bucket. And that's how much water for the pills that we're getting ready to put in, the CVBN pills. If you don't know about flower conditioning, I did a Facebook Live on that, and you'll find that. It's called Making the Most of Your Cut Flowers, and you'll find that on my blog. And it tells you why we put these pills in. And if you're not measuring, what's the use? It's science. If you're putting too much water or not enough water, it really affects the efficiency or the effectiveness of your tablet, of what you're using. We put a tablet in every bucket, every tall bucket. Typically the short buckets don't get it, because those crops, typically hydrangeas, don't need it. And it's a different bucket. The reason I put one in every single bucket, the tall ones, is it's hard to tell which buckets have it and which don't. Not every single flower needs it. And on our website, on that product, it lists the Dirty Dozen flowers, and there's a great article, a PDF that you can request, and tells you all about this. So the hydrangea bucket, I always put almost half full. First off, hydrangeas need so much water, and sometimes the stems are shorter, and it's just kind of an insurance policy that all of them get their little feet wet, so that's more than enough. All right. Oops, sorry, sister.
Lynn says good morning from New Jersey.
Good morning, Lynn. All right. So I'm going to get my clippers and the pills. Best little pouch ever. We don't sell these. You can find them on Amazon, Belco's. And the reason I love it is I do not have to wear a belt. I just slide it on my pocket. That's why I'm still using the same clippers I used last year. And let me get our pills. So, always happens, doesn't it? Okay. 1 for each bucket.
Good morning, Susan. Susan Ackerman.
Hey, Susan. Are you drinking coffee and eating that bread or pie I saw you had yesterday? So just drop a pill into each bucket. And now we're off. So what I always cut first are the most vulnerable things. That would be hydrangeas. Then we're going to go cut our foliage for Suzanne's bouquets. I don't cut a lot of foliage on Mondays because we don't have our members only market. It's our commercial customers, right? So we don't have enough to sell to those. So hop on Susie Q, and we're going to go back to the hydrangea patch. Come on, Barry. Actually, let's put this between us. Come on, Stinker. Barry gets on the cart. Come on up, girl. Sit.
Good girl.
So all 3 of us are going off to harvest. I'm going to try not to splash us. And, for the first, gosh, sister, how many years? Probably the first 4, 5, or 6. One of those wagons like you see for sale in big box stores and stuff. And I didn't realize. Oh, I have to go really slow, y'all, because this lawn is so bumpy from
And this
tractor,
bucket is splashing
and
us.
my butt is now wet. So I pulled a wagon of flowers. It's not so bad first thing in the morning, but after you're exhausted and they're full of flowers, it gets really heavy. I just don't know what a gift having something to ride. So this is, let's stop and cut these while we're here. This is, y'all can just stay right here. This is my little test patch of status. I tested planting it in the fall, and then I planted it again in very early spring. This is the very early spring planting. And they did beautifully. I'm really pleased. And my pouch came off when I was bumping along. And y'all are gonna see wet spots on my behind. All right. Status does not get stripped.
You notice she's cutting all the way down to the ground. And we do not strip status. Of course, until it gets in to where I have to make a bouquet, and I'll strip whatever's going to end up in the water off of it. It's so hardy. Good morning, Terry. I love status. Can't get enough of it in bouquets. You going to help Barry? You going to help her? Huh?
Too short, too short. You want to cut status when it's really developed. That's when it's the best. And again, we don't cut that for commercial customers. That's not a commercial product. While our customers have expressed that they would purchase them, it's just not something I grow. It's like Gumphrena. Gumphrena, I could sell an acre of Gumphrena, but it's really difficult to harvest, and it's labor intensive, so it's not something we grow a lot of. So I'm just gonna walk around here, and we have way too many pink hydrangeas. Would you rather have blue or pink or white or green or what, sister?
We used blue last time, so probably pink this time.
Okay. So what I'm always looking for are long stems. How about these?
Yes.
And I love cutting them when they're still showing green. And I'm just going down and cutting to the first branching. I mean, if it's long enough. And we know there's snakes in this patch, so we just tread softly. Should have seen the look on my sister's face when I said
No, I know there's snakes. I was already thinking about it.
All right, so trying to make my way in there. So this is the first year that these have bloomed so well. A lot of these varieties, Stevie brought home from jobs that they were in the way, and the owners, the people, he's a plumber. He had to dig, and they didn't want them. So he brings them home, and so you might say this is a rescued patch of hydrangeas. Might as well just cut them all. All right, I think this might be enough of these. So there you go.
I've never had hydrangeas for breakfast before. It's pretty yummy.
So I don't like mixed buckets. So we're having to put the hydrangeas in here because they're so tall. We'll save that shorter bucket maybe for the foliage that I'm going to cut. So now we're going to go over and park where the basil is, and then we're going to walk back to where the mountain mint is. Come on, Bear. We'll walk. Come on, girl. Come on. Get on in and do not sit on the accelerator. This has happened. All right, so here we go. We have to go kind of slow because there's so many bumps and it makes the water splash. So these are mammoth sunflowers that you're seeing here. These are planted. We're having Elora's reception here for her wedding that we just had out in Arizona in a couple, 3 weeks, and we're just trying to create backdrop for good greenery. And it is really ruddy back here, and it's all from tractor tires. And so we're going to go out here and park where we're going to cut the basil, but we're going to walk back to the native border. And if we go somewhere and lose Wi-Fi for a minute, just hang on and we'll be back, okay? So we're going to park over here. Okay, let's walk back here to the native border. So again, we're just cutting a variety of filler for Suzanne. And it's really nice to have more than either. It's nice to have a variety. So while we have lemon basil and our summer garden is just getting started, I mean, we still aren't cutting celosia. We have a trickle of stuff that, so having this variety of filler, and I don't know if anybody else grows mountain mint. Everybody should grow it. So this is the native border, which is not a cultivated. This was put here for habitat. And so I have patches of, this is mountain mint, and it's just starting. And what happens with mountain mint is it all tends to come on at the same time. So cutting it as soon as you possibly can to kind of stretch it out is really important. So I'm just going to probably cut about 10 stems, and I go down and cut it, and you have to really strip mountain mint.
Smells great.
Smells like mint, and this gets whiter and grayer as it matures, and it is amazing, and it gets bigger. But again, look at all these stems we have. When it's perfect, you could never cut all of this.
Smells like I just brushed my teeth.
Yeah, it does kind of smell that way, doesn't it? And I'm looking through trying to find the most mature, which is what I'm always doing when I'm cutting. And y'all aren't the only ones watching us. Show them our men up on the roof behind us.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we live with. So the houses around here are popping up like dandelions. So a week from now, this bunch of 10 would be twice as big as this. But this will give Suzanne a little extra bang in her bouquets this morning. So, and I don't normally walk this slow, y'all.
Pep it up.
So our basil is down here. I choose, oh, look at that rotten dog. I always cut zinnias last. First off, it has been said by studies that zinnias benefit from the carbs they gather once it starts to heat up, which may help them last longer. But for me, zinnias are the biggest crop that I cut, which means it's endless. And I want to get everything else done before I have to do that. Because you know what, y'all? I try to eat the frog first thing in the morning. I cut the thing that I least like to cut, which really isn't the case right now because we'll see it. Gomphrena isn't in full bloom yet, which is what I least like to cut. What are you doing over there? So here we are. This is about how much basil I grow for our members market. It's only about 10 feet long. And we have another patch getting ready to go in. And the way that I choose what we need to cut today is the most mature and the tallest. And so this crop was pinched. And so there's usually about 2 or 3 stems on a plant. So I just start cutting. See the blooms that are starting? That means that, and I go all the way down just about to ground.
You have to strip basil really hard. Don't leave much on it,
Or your sister complains.
or it doesn't hydrate.
And this isn't as tall. We didn't have a really wet spring like we sometimes do. And so stuff is not quite as tall as it will be. We're now getting lots and lots of rain, and it's not quite as robust as it will be soon, and that's okay with me because I like being able to cut patches cleaner, meaning more of it, because that keeps it producing. When they're really big and bushy, sometimes they're harder to keep hydrated, and there's too much of it.
And here's that Gomphrena that's not ready
We may
yet.
cut a few of those later. And it rained here last night, which was not a big rain, but so I'm cutting things that doing that when it's a little damp doesn't really matter. Foliage stuff really benefits from that. You know, back when we had 100-foot bed of this, oh my gosh. You just have to really strip it hard, like that, and I would probably even take those 2 off. So I think I'm jumping over to Suzanne's side. Wait a minute. What happens is, so this plant I'm cutting right now has already had 2 cut off of it. Once the stems start to get woody, there's a lot of nut grass in here. Let's look on that side when I get over there.
Joe wants to know if mountain mint is started from seed and where do you get it?
No, mountain mint is a plant that you buy. First off, it is invasive, just like any mint is, right? So you need to plant it. Let me start back here. You need to plant it where you can either contain it or it just doesn't matter. Like my border, I just don't really care if it spreads and goes all over. Native plant sales, it is the #1 plant for pollinators, by the way. You will not believe the pollinators on it. So a native plant sale, you can certainly Google it online, but you can probably call your local master gardeners or find your local native plant sale, and pretty sure they'll have it. It's really easy to propagate, and there's been some experiments on mountain mint, cutting half of it, doing what's called the Chelsea cut, cutting half of it to the ground so it blooms later to spread it out. I've never had opportunity or time to do that. We may try that experiment this year.
Aaron wants to know if you irrigate before you harvest to make sure the plants are hydrated.
No. We, here in Virginia, we just get an abundance of rain, it seems, for the last several years. And if it was super dry, first off, you shouldn't let your beds get super dry. But some crops, yes. Dahlias benefit from that. Basil might, but we don't typically do that. So to answer your question, no. Don't you think that's enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna regroup. These are the Cosmos, which are not doing so well as you can see, but I'm reminded again is why we don't commercially grow Cosmos. They just aren't a great commercial crop. Every year I think this year will be different, but it's not. All right, so now we're gonna go over to what's left of the cool flowers. I might be peeling this coat off soon. You know, y'all, side note, this red shirt I have on, I've been harvesting in for 20 years, literally.
Thank goodness she's watched it a couple of times.
Yeah, it is. Don't we have an order for poppy pods today?
Yes, Allison.
2 dozen or something?
Yeah.
All right. So the other thing I'm always thinking about, which is not a problem right now, but it will be in 2 hours, is where is the sun and where is my buckets to protect them from the sun. So I park so that my buckets are in the shade. So these are the poppy pods that we grow for seed, but we have an order for 2 dozen. So I'm just gonna cut them. They're kind of this is like the last week we're gonna offer them as a cut because the heat really takes a toll on them. Doesn't matter what height because they're a 1 stem. Look at this, bad bugs, y'all. There are those leaf-legged bugs, and they know
Some
me.
right there beside you too. There's more right here.
Yep. They will bite you. They're in the stink bug family. I just grab them with gloves and smash them. So this is 5.
Brian says you can't wash your lucky shirt.
So when I'm cutting, I'm looking at what's the next one. I'm stripping, I'm looking to see what's the next one I'm gonna cut. And at this point, I'm looking at the biggest. That's what our customers want. I'm pretty sure he dries a lot of stuff, so he may be drying these.
What poppies are these? The giant poppies?
These are the giant poppy pods. You can go to our website. It's on there.
Well, good grief. Kathy Ward's up this early.
Childhood friend. All right, those are too small. So I'm just walking through and looking for the biggest bulbs without marks on them, since these are going to be sold. The rest of these, here's bugs. Every one of those that you kill, and once you learn what their eggs look like so you can destroy them when you find them, they are so detrimental to crops. They carry viruses, they damage tomatoes, they really damage sunflowers. So this is why I don't like to cut to order. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. We may not get, well, maybe we will. All right, so this is done. So now you got to get all this mess off, because what happens, it just mucks the water up. I mean, it just makes it really gross. It doesn't matter what you put in the water, you cannot prevent this. So this crop was twice as tall last year. Y'all may or may not know that our cool flower garden was flooded most of the winter, and that really, as you would imagine, affects how well they grew. These are usually twice as tall and big. But next year, always, is always next year, right? All right. So here we go, mixing a bucket again. So we're gonna put all the oddball stuff kind of in a bucket together now. And so usually I take foliage, well, especially while I'm right here next to the building, get the foliage out of the heat. And I'm also gonna put these hydrangeas in here and take them in. They, just from being out here in the heat and humidity, even if they're shaded, they will wilt. So there's Susie Q's bouquet fillers.
Everybody wants to know if you'll do a post on bugs and which ones to squish. And Joe says that she's in preschool on bugs.
All right. So we try to have, I'll turn the light on. We try to have, this is where I'll put all the buckets, have all of this ready. I mean, I'm just telling you, when you're hot and tired and by yourself, trying to get stuff prepared really helps you. Okay, so first off, I want y'all to note how small my bachelor button patch is. Nobody likes to cut bachelor buttons, me included. But the blue color is significantly needed. If you get them cut, you'll throw in the bucket and then they'll start not producing. So this is the stage I like to cut them in. And these, just like the poppy pods, are shorter than normal, but they're still very useful. Suzanne likes using them in bouquets, and sometimes I just snip off blooms that I'm not cutting today, like all those faded ones. Bachelor buttons are a huge pollinator crop. Oh, I cut it off. So I often leave these, the native bees, oh, there they are. We've got native swarms of little, Mark Smith, are you on here? I don't know what kind of bee it is. They're teeny weeny. And so at this point, when I have, now that the zinnias have started and our other variety, we have a lot of flowers now. Unlike 3 weeks ago when we had nothing and I was cutting every standing flower. Because of what I just told you I'm doing, going along and doing this, you know what this means? This means that the central stem is not the bloom. So that's why I have so far this morning cut 3 of the blooms off, because it is not the central stem.
Oh, good morning, Cammie.
And so let's see here. So I'm just gonna cut. So you see this stem is not the central stem because of what I'm doing. And if blue wasn't so darn important, I wouldn't be doing this. This has really added troubles. So bachelor buttons is insignificant to some people. No, it's not the biggest cash crop you're gonna grow. Just trying to see where that stem is. There it is. But if you're making bouquets, it is a significant crop. The secret is to only plant for your cutting patch. You can plant a big patch wherever you want for the pollinators. And I'm going to get selective now because this is exactly what happens. As the summer garden starts to really bloom, I'm standing here thinking to myself, I do not have time to do this. But yet, and see, this is the challenge. You want to leave both of those little blooms on there. You can't do it. It won't stay hydrated, will it, Suzanne?
I don't know. Might give her a try.
So I'm just selectively walking through here. So this means that this is probably the last time I'll be cutting bachelor buttons. We've already given up, thrown in the towel on the Orlea, which is right next to Suzanne, the white flower, that's white lace flower. We're done with that. You can see it's really short, and it is usually, once the sun comes out, it'll be totally and completely covered in pollinators.
Hector wants to know if all of our rows are covered with biomulch.
No, these are direct seeded, so they did not get filmed, and we're doing all kinds of experiments this year. We actually have some transplants that were just planted into no film for cultivating to see how that all goes. So yes, at this point, transplanted beds typically are covered, but direct seeded beds, as all of this stuff, all of these cool flowers right here, were direct seeded. So, all right, we're moving on from these. Suzanne has enough blue just to add a little pop to maybe a couple of her bouquets, not all of them, but we're moving on for the sake of, see, I see the ones that are perfect. See, that is perfect. See how vivid that blue is? The minute it opens out here in the garden and the sun hits it, it starts to fade it. So this is the perfect recipe. You want that to open in your customer's home. So that's it. So now we're cutting dill. And the other thing I want to say is, so what you do have to know is, if you didn't, that Koo Flowers, was a big bust this year. Normally all of this would be netted. But because we had such a horrible winter and not robust plants this fall, this spring, I just decided not to do it. And so far, so good. So look how tall this dill is. I mean, a big old rainstorm could easily take this down. So what I'm looking for is, I am cutting the ones that I like.
Good morning, Kit.
The ones that have nice big flowers, and I usually go down and cut it right above a side shoot that I think will grow into a nice stem. And this is another one. You got to get a lot of the foliage off, or it will just never hide. See, all these are just too immature.
And that's what they want to know. When?
Yeah.
How do you tell?
When they start to get yellow versus this. That's too immature. That's a cool look. It's green, but it'll wilt. The stem's just not mature enough to stay hydrated. And so our florists do like this. Plus Suzanne likes to use it in bouquets. We have one long-time customer, a bouquet subscription drop-off customer, that just used to tell me the sweetest stories about dill from her mom. And I mean, she's probably in her late 80s now, our customer. And I always think of her when I'm cutting it. So,
And if it's past the yellow stage, can you still harvest it?
yes. So, but you want to let it, I think there's one down there, I'll show you. You don't want to harvest it when it's dropping stuff. See, there's nothing falling off of these. It'll go through that stage of shedding. Let it shed in the garden, and then it will get a seed head, and those are gorgeous too. We very rarely ever have enough to do that. We usually use it all up. And see, I'm thinking to myself, I better get as much of this as I can, because all it's going to take is a storm, and this stuff will go down. We know we have commercial customers tomorrow that'll take it.
Milda says hi from Lithuania.
Oh my goodness.
What time is it there?
So this one's on the verge of being too late. So I'm going to leave that. And then, so maybe by next week, that'll have seed starting to develop. And I will tell you that when the seeds start to develop, they really hold up for a long time.
Good morning, Drew. It's 2 p.m. in Lithuania, in case anybody was wondering.
She's having lunch, had lunch already.
What's the temperature there?
All right. Here's another one that I'll probably leave. See how it's just got the little, it's just so much more yellow. And so, let's see here. So this is almost a single row, so I'm not gonna, I'm cutting, we'll take this one too. So this one is the one I'm leaving to see, to get the seed heads to develop. And, all right, there's that.
Morning, Beth.
So again, I want to say this is where we are now. We're being small market farmers. Classically, back in high production, we'd have 2 buckets of dill. We'd have 2 buckets of status. So this is more of the market farmer volume, and again, Cool Flowers garden that we're in really petering out, and then we're going to get to the summer. So I want to turn around here and show you this. This is our Bupleurum bed that last year, you know, we had another wedding here last year with another niece, and we allowed 2 beds of sunflowers to go to seed, which we have never done that. We let them bloom. These are all the reseeded sunflowers, and so they've really kind of helped the Bupleurum by shading them. They've had a struggle year. So I'm gonna go through here first and cut. These are not the sunflowers I plant every week. These are gifts. So I'm gonna go through and cut them first, and then I'm gonna cut some Bupleurum.
Good morning from Amsterdam, where it's 1 p.m.
So this is what I do. I strip in the garden before I cut. And I'll come back and cut these. And there are some really cool looking ones. So we have a lot of those leaf-footed bugs, and you got to get him because he'll bite you. So this seems to be a brancher, so I'm just going to strip it down to where, to leave some other blooms to develop.
Good morning, Debbie.
Giant. This would never, you'll see when we're over in the cultivated patch, we would never, this is great mulch, y'all. Just drop it down. I leave 1 leaf. And I want to encourage everybody that if you aren't already on my email list, to go over to thegardenersworkshop.com and sign up. And look, Bobo's here.
Hi, Bobo.
Where's the dog?
Hi, Bobo. Say good morning to everyone.
Oh, I'll open it. I got the buttons. Where's Barrett?
We have folks from Lithuania and Amsterdam watching us this morning.
Wow, what time is it there?
1 and 2 p.m.
I don't know where, oh, here she is.
Always have to check to see where the dog is before the gate is opened.
All right, so here we go. So interestingly enough, these reseeders are not, these were all pro-cut oranges last year. They are not pro-cut oranges this year, which is why you buy seed of hybrids and not try to save it yourself. So these will be pretty cool for Suzanne to be able to use in her bouquets. And I will tell you the classic problem with these fancy colored sunflowers.
Beth wants to know what the spacing should be on branching sunflowers.
I don't grow branch flowers. Not for commercial cuts. Probably, well, there's some planted over there for ornamental. I put 2 rows in a bed and about 6 inches between the plants. But branching sunflowers do not last for cuts. These things are tough. Hold the, this is a classic. Hold the top and strip and strip. Again, these are all
Patty just got up in Texas.
Thing is, once you see the bupleurum that's at the feet of these, that's why I'm not really leaving any of these to be an ornamental for our party that's coming. That's why I have a whole bed over there planted. All right. Now I'm going to walk back and gather them up. And because these are planted so far apart, the stems are too big. Nobody wants a stem that big to work with in an arrangement. Right, sister? And it makes them so heavy.
Yep.
These are the snips that I use. They're on our website, Cut Flower Shears. They're actually Japanese bonsai shears. As you can see, they do a fine job on sunflowers and lilies. And I love them. And we're going to come through and cut that bupleurum. So bupleurum is a great crop commercially for, again, it'll be more filler for Suzanne. I can't tell you how heavy these sunflowers are. I mean, these stems are ginormous. Too big. I would never offer these for sale to a commercial customer, but Suzanne can use them in her bouquets today. And I'm eyeballing what to do here. But I have to stop now and talk to Bobo about what she is gonna be doing today. So Bobo, sunflower planting, I think. Don't you? Yep.
All right. So all 5 of them?
I think so.
All
6.
6,
2
yeah.
whites,
Yeah, 6.
4 pros, and just go to the next spot over there, and then we'll be done with that. And that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Aaron wants to know how you prevent sunflower heads from turning down after harvest.
You don't grow branchers. That doesn't happen with single stems. Typically, with Pro Cut Orange, this does not happen. All right, get away. All right, so let me go down this other side, get the sunflowers, and then we'll get the bupleurum. This is the perfect stage to cut. And look, there's a stink bug in there. They're problems too. I mean, they're the cousins to the other ones we've just killed. And doing this all the time, just as part of your practice, makes a big difference, y'all, in the population of bugs. Look at this one. Hybrid. It's got some stripies going on there. So back when we were in high production again, I would never be doing this. We had so many flowers to cut. I would have never allowed these to stay, to grow up. I'm not even cutting that one. It's just too open.
Oh, there's a bug. Get him. I don't have a glove on.
Where? Oh. Goner.
A flock of geese landing next door.
I had a cousin that was a detective, and one time we were in Sunday school or something, and I was talking about chopping grasshoppers in half with my clippers or squishing bugs, and he turned around and looked at me and said, I don't think I'd tell anybody that. You know that we investigate people for like sinister crimes that have those kinds of practices. So be careful who you tell that to. The company we're keeping, you can talk about this stuff, but it's not so much the case with the general population. All right, so I think we may be done. It's tempting to leave a lot of foliage, but I'm telling you, they won't hydrate. One leaf is all I leave. trying to get out of this garden so we can get over and cut some zinnias.
Kathy says Lola and Bailey are barking at the geese.
Barry doesn't even pay attention to the geese anymore. And she was, she has hunting titles, but she's like, those days are gone. She's not carrying dead birds around anymore. All right, so now she barks at the dogs across the street.
Morning, neighbor dogs.
While laying down, of course. So now Bupleurum. Again, some of this at the front is really short. We have taller, normal branching here. But Susie Q can use all of this she can get for bouquets. And we make a couple of shorty bouquets for subscription customers. And so I'll show you the stage to cut this when I get to a good one. That's a good example. Sometimes you miss and cut the wrong one. So this is a classic length. The heads are usually bigger than this, but again, it's been shaded by the sunflowers. You want 3 or 4 heads to be open like that. The way you know you cut Bupleurum too soon, it wilts. And again, that's what I strip it down to. This has turned into a spear. All right.
Kathy wants to know if you harvest Rudbeckia at the same stage as sunflowers.
We're gonna look at Rudbeckia. We're getting
Stand
there.
by.
Huh?
I told her to stand by.
So these sunflowers have kind of protected the Bupleurum from going down in a storm. Bupleurum should definitely be netted. But these sunflowers have really protected it, but it is a real pain in the neck to cut this mess. Again, I would have never allowed this to occur if I was in high production.
You see Bobo over there putting out her netting to use as a guide for planting the sunflowers.
And we're in seed start. We're in constant seed starting here. So we try to do the hot work before, early in the morning. So after she plants those sunflowers, she'll go in, or she actually sits out on the porch, but she'll be.
Yes, Joyce, this will be available on our website. It usually takes us a week or so to get it up, but it'll be there.
Under my blog.
Under the blog.
Lisa Lives.
Lisa
Or
Lives.
you can click and it brings up all, so there's no Bupleurum planted right here.
Hello from Arizona, Darlene. Love Arizona.
So this Bupleurum was really short. It isn't so tall now, but I just left it. I thought, well, what the heck? What have I got to lose? But that's just tall enough to go in a bouquet. Suzanne can skirt the edges with it. So while we're waiting for the basil to get beefed up and that mountain mint to really get going, but I don't bend over. You got to be a certain height for me to be useful. And Bupleurum is another one that when it starts to develop a seed head, I just saw it right here. That's a good stage too. If you leave it, if you have a ton, cut what you need. Try not to stomp those. I'm getting ready to have fun.
This triloba?
Yes.
Okay. Step around.
So you can allow it. That's all about. It's one of the things we talk about in flower farming school is strategies to extend the harvest. You just have to be smart and having these conversations prepare you for the day you got 1,000,000 flowers to cut, and what do you do? So this is the area that doesn't have any blue plum. I gotta take my coat off on now. The sun's coming. What I have found, and this is gonna be a pain in the neck, is that for heat, I like to wear cotton clothing. All of these new shirts, Suzanne just bought what, Bobo?
What color do you want in front?
Why don't you do white in the front? That'd be great. Suzanne has just bought me a test shirt to wear. What's it called, sister?
I forget, but the more you sweat, the cooler it's supposed to make you.
We'll see about that. And so I'm interested to see how that works, because that's one of the things as we age, it is harder and harder to stay cool. And you can, I don't know if you noticed, but Bobo has cotton on. She also wears long sleeves.
And cotton, not like in the knit like a t-shirt.
It's like
Brisk.
broadcloth. So I don't have much buplurum, enough for her bouquets, maybe a bunch for a commercial customer. But I'm going to put that again in here because we don't have a lot of it.
We usually don't mix buckets when we're doing high production.
Okay, so let's hop over. These are weedy tuberoses and peonies. We'll go to work on these in the next couple of weeks now that the tuberoses are actually up. So this is the leftover messy cool flowers, but they're still harvestable stuff. This is the status that was fall planted. And this whole front was flooded for days after days after days during the winter. So status is winter hardy in zone 7 is my speculation. And I'm not cutting a lot of, at the end of the week when Suzanne's making lots of bouquets for our members only market, I'll cut some of this shorter stuff. But we already have some tall stuff, right? And so we have to cut stuff that would be the potential to go in her bigger bouquets today and for commercial customers and stuff.
Whoop, there goes a baby bunny.
We have baby bunnies everywhere around here. Stuff that just really has to be cut. See, these need to open up more. See how they're that's not open? You want it to be more like this, because they don't open anymore. All right, let me jump across here. Mudslide. So I'm just cutting what really may be damaged by the end of the week. White always gets cut early on because it'll get brown really fast. All right, that's good. So I'm going to back the golf cart up first off. It's a waste of time walking to the cart. You always want your cart to be as close as you are as possible. Barry is still over there.
We always check to make sure where the dog is before anything with wheels moves.
Ta-da!
First cucumber?
Second.
Second cucumber.
All right. So, we love. This is Goldilocks. Goldilocks does weird things for us. Doesn't that look like a, I don't know
Love
what
it.
it looks like. I'm going to do something here I don't normally do. I'm not going to cut this stem. I'm going to, how am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to cut it. Never mind. Going all the way to the ground. Yes, I'm stripping off all those potential stems, but guess what? They'd never grow up to be a big stem. So, that's a rudbeckia. And we love Goldilocks. I have a terrible time getting it to germinate. That's why we don't have very much of it. And because we just love the way it looks. And so somebody asked about when to cut it. I like to wait until it's open and developed like this because the neck gets stiffer, but you risk damage from pests. So you have to really play out what's going on in your garden. See, these are shorter, but Suzanne, I'm thinking to myself, you could use these for the short bouquets, for the subscriptions that they sit on the front desk of businesses. So this Black-Eyed Susan Prairie Sun is very susceptible. So that's about the stage that I cut it for this variety. Indian Summer, which we'll see out yonder, I have to leave longer because it's just testy to hydrate. And yes, look at all those stems I'm cutting off, but you want stems to grow from the base of the plant to be a strong, straight stem, just like, use your clippers. You want a strong, straight stem like that. And that's what that will give you by going down there and cutting at the ground level. And our customers don't rely on foliage, our commercial customers, on our flowers for their arrangements. They buy foliage, just like we grow foliage, right? Because foliage sucks the life out of, see how it's already got a little damage? We'll see if Suzanne will let that get through. And when you have thicker stems, sometimes it's just easier. You're trying to snip off the edges without leaving the side shoots, without leaving knobs.
Hello, Alice from Wisconsin.
All right, because there's not, well, I'm just going to jump across to the other side. I try to keep flowers together, especially in mixed buckets. That I'll cut on Friday. What are you? I don't know what he is, but I'm thinking he's a good guy, so I'm just pushing him off. So I'm going to take all of these stems that are just cracking open, light colored flowers, white, lime green, always get cut sooner than later.
Hi, Mike from Baltimore.
So, snipping. I mean, we don't want to have to touch these flowers again until they're bunched or used in a bouquet. So we do all the stripping, everything right out here in the field, and that way we don't have to carry out the strippings. I mean, we have so much debris on this farm from stripping bouquets when we're making bunches and stuff that we need to get rid of everything we can out here in the field. And because these are the first cuts for these, I haven't really cut any of these this year. There's a little bit more, I'm slowed down because of that. That's always the case on the first cut because you're doing the central stem, right, to get more stems to grow from that center of the plant. So normally you wouldn't have all these side shoots to deal with, is what I'm getting at. So yes, I'm going to almost ground level. And this is like the first cut on a zinnia. That'll just encourage more growth to come from that spot, which is what really gives us, this guy's damaged.
Darlene says debris in the garden doesn't attract more pests. I've read that it does.
Nope, I mean, we're standing on leaves. Now, if you had a pesty aphids or, something like that, sure. But pests typically is not really a problem. You know what I mean? It's like you're not, if it was diseased or pesty, yes, I would think about that, but that's not normally the case.
Kathy wants to know how Rebecca does in the cooler.
It likes it. And so we're gonna cut this funky thing here too. Rebecca is good in the cooler. And in fact, particularly the Indian summer, it'll really revive them. And so you'll see when I'm cutting zinnias over there that I try to keep them pretty level, but these are so many short ones, that's why my hand is kind of mixed at this point. You help protect the flower from getting damaged in the bucket by keeping them pretty level. Nobody gets lost in the understory, right? All right. So it looks like we're gonna have 2 mixed buckets. So here is that Daucus. That's a. This is a really messy place. We're gonna cut this because I'm getting ready to take this bed out because we had so much loss. We'll just cut these and take them. This is Amazon Sweet William, and these are straw flowers. I'm saving them till Friday. So this is the Daucus, and I wear long sleeves because these marks on my legs are from them, and just got to be really careful. I'm super sensitive to it. Some people are not sensitive to it. So I keep this kind of long, and I like to cut it when it's small because you're going to have future stems develop, and you can cut them at a different stage. And I'm just cutting down below, right above what I believe is another strong stem. And look at this. So this is, come over here, sister. You can see where I cut
Keep
this.
losing connection or low
Do you
connection.
really?
It just says low connection. There we go.
I made a cut here last week, and look how these 3 stems have grown up. So you can stay there. I'm going around the other side. So again, we just don't have very much of this yet.
So if y'all see me going back and forth, it's because I'm getting a signal that the connection's getting low. So that's why I look like a crazy woman doing this. Ooh.
So do you all lose video when that happens? I mean, have you lost video would be the question.
These long flowers are Daucus, or black carrot.
Yeah, false Queen Anne's lace, you'll find them also on our website. You can go to our seeds and get the names of all this stuff. We sell all the seeds of the stuff that we grow. We sell the same seeds that we plant. So we're not getting much of this either. All right, so.
Tina says yes, so we cut out for a minute and come back.
When we get to the other garden, I don't think that'll be a problem. All right, I'm going to cut while I'm out here. This is Scabiosus. So we grow Scabby red, blue, and black, and it's just a nice little bouquet addition. Again, I've already cut most of it, as you can see.
And Joyce, are you asking if the black carrot will continue to open? Which flower are you talking about? And majority of these will.
Yeah.
I think everything we've cut this morning will continue to open, except maybe the hydrangeas and the poppy pods.
All right. All right, so let me cut these, and we'll get over to the big garden. Again, I'm cutting things that I otherwise might not because they're short. We're used to snaps. The first round was much taller. But since Suzanne is making bouquets today, she can use some of these taller ones. And if I don't cut, they won't come back. And again, until our celosia really gets started, we need spiky stuff, right? And people really love snaps, but once the beautiful colors of the celosia start, these are really too short. But I have to cut them if I want more to come, right?
And remember, we're in the middle of the city. There goes the school bus.
Too crooked. Too short.
What are you talking about? I can use these for my small bouquet. Salvage them, don't worry.
All right, so let's move on. Give it here. And now use the short bouquet she has to make today. All right, so now where is the dog? There she is. We're gonna back up over here to the other side of the corn where the beginning of a new native patch.
Here she comes. She's on the chase. She's gonna catch us.
Look at her. She's got debris hanging from her. So let's see. Where is the sun? So I'm gonna pull over here. Watch out, Barry. Excuse me.
Beep, beep.
Pardon us. Pardon us. All right. So we're gonna turn around so that the cart's facing the sun, which means the buckets will be out of the sun. There you go. All right, so let's go over here and get some of these. So this is a new native patch that I'm developing of Rudbeckias, and cucumber beetle, goner. That one's too damaged. We're just gonna leave her. So this patch is partial cuts, partial for reseeding to create a native patch of Rudbeckias. So see how damaged this bloom is? It's got chew marks. That's the risk of leaving. Oh, this one's really bad. But this one is not. And there's a bad guy. He's quick. This is a little baby stink bug. Anyway, he's a goner now.
What smells so sweet? Maybe it's the sweet William you just cut. I'm smelling.
I don't think so. So there's an Indian summer, all stripped. Indian summer will quickly drop its head. And there are some other varieties. There's some double daisies or Goldilocks mixed in here. This is where Rudbeckia was planted 2 years ago, and all this stuff reseeded. And so let's walk down here where there's lots more. See, I just stop and look. If anybody doesn't have damage yet, I'll cut them. Because the risk is high. So I cut deep, and I'm gonna get rid of all this. I probably could have left that one. You know, if you're desperate for flowers, you might look down there and think, oh, if I moved up a half an inch, I could have saved a stem, but I don't do that. So none of those are worth it. This one's nice. So I am doing that now. I'm
Connection's
looking where I'm
low.
cutting. Huh?
Connection was gone, now it's back.
So you just need to stay put wherever it
Okay.
is. And
It means you gotta talk loud.
so this is double daisy, and these always, here, I'll cut one off and show it to you. In our garden, this is pest damage. Those brown tips, it always does this. That's why we don't grow this one anymore, and we grow Goldilocks. Occasionally I'll get one, like this one isn't too bad. And see, all of this,
Louder.
as we really get going here, we'll have more, but right now it just gives Suzanne nice variety for our bouquet customers. So this is why I don't like not cutting every flower. I'm having to scan what flower am I going to cut, because I have so many that have damage because of that double daisy. Here's a regular one. Because these reseeded, they're all mixed in. And you know, cutting deep on the central stem also helps you to control the height of the plant. It helps it stay up longer. I'm gonna come up there and show you this, but Prairie Sun, that green centered one that we saw over yonder that I cut, is my favorite Rudbeckia to grow for bouquets and for commercial customers because it's the longest lasting, easy to hydrate. These Indian summers like this that get so big, sometimes their petals just get floppy just by nature of how, oh, here's one right here in the garden. Just like this. And people just think they're old. They're not old. That's just because they're so dadgum big. So I no longer am such a champion. I'll cut this one and show it to you. That one's not bad, but there's just a lot of them that are floppy, and so we still grow it because we love it, but I also grow more of the Prairie Sun for that reason. It's smaller, it's green in the center, so it goes with everything, and it's a super hardy plant. I forgot to take my coat off, y'all. It's hot.
Which one did you not, do you not grow anymore, the double daisy?
Right. Gloriosa daisy, sometimes it's called. But that's in my garden, other people's gardens. I was on a tour. Oh, here's a little native bee. Sound asleep. Can you see him? I think that's a longhorn. See his long tentacles there? He's asleep. I'm not waiting. I'll let him keep his flower.
What's the little bug behind him?
That's a beetle, which everybody has. They aren't particularly damaging. They're just a bunch of them. They're annoying more than anything else. You know, at this point, if it's not damaged and it'll hold up, like look at those small ones. The small ones are okay. They look great right now when I don't have a bunch of these, but when I have a whole bunch of these to choose from, I would never be cutting these small guys. And the other thing is Prairie Sun stems are sturdier than Indian Summer. All right, y'all, I think we're finally done with this spotty flower harvest. So now I'm always making sure my flowers are straight in the bucket so we get no spit guys. So now I'm kind of crazy about trying to just move that way and know that I'm done over there, I'm done back here. So let's move it.
Hi Alice, yes, this is going to be on Lisa's blog page in about a week or so. It usually takes me a week to get it processed and loaded up to our website, so you will be able to watch it later.
So I'm doing this and I'll move backwards so that we can get our flowers out of the sun.
And there's Bobo planting away.
So,
We love you, Bobo.
So this is kind of where I've already harvested, but because we're kind of hungry for sunflowers this morning for commercial customers, I'm going to look at them and cut. When they're this short, I don't strip them in the garden. I just cut them, and I'll show you what I do. This is the height when I start doing that. When they're like this, I don't do that. First off, their stems are so thin that they typically wouldn't hold up to that kind of treatment. But you can just look at them and tell. I'll come back, I'll get them on the way out. I used to not be sure if customers would like these little sunflowers. They love them, by the way. we'll just cut this one. And see, I'm looking at the face of them to see if they are damaged, because I'll leave them because the bees and the pollinators just really enjoy them. And let me gather these sunflowers, then we'll come back and get that millet that's down there. Left one too many there. All right, so when I'm out here cutting these shorties that aren't stripped, I just carry the big, I usually have a huge handful, and walking back to the cart, first I'll take the ones that are already stripped and put them in the bucket. And then I just usually throw these down and strip them right out here in the lawn. I usually try to do this. A lot of times I'd have the bucket laying right there on the floor. And again, once we get in full blow around here with what we have planted, I would never have the time to do this. So it's a little bit different as we ramp up because we have more of individual crops.
Spacing on sunflowers for the smaller blooms.
It's always the same. It doesn't matter. It's the day length that really affects that, and the weather conditions, because we don't irrigate sunflowers. So it's always the same. And all of that is in Vegetables Love Flowers. 4 rows in a bed, 6 inches apart in row. All right, I gotta take this coat off too. So I try to kind of line up the heads and get a little bit of uniformity so that they're easier in the bucket to protect them. And I am not putting these in here with these huge, there's a ladybug, with these huge ones. I'm gonna put these guys over here. Let's get rid of this. Now I'm gonna go down and get millet. Millet sometimes can be short, like this is in the front, but I just leave it till it gets enough length. That's not my preference, but it was really dry. We don't irrigate it, sunflowers and millets at all, and so they're suffering. But we have some tall stuff down here.
There's a question of how did you clear the grass from the fields beside each of these?
The garden is cultivated, tiller.
So it's a tiller, it's been tilled.
So I don't strip millet in the field. We grow so much of it. This is kind of the leftovers. I've already cut this through this.
Dog messed up my netting.
Uh-oh, Barry's getting fired.
Bad dog. No, bad dog.
So I've already cut the biggest and best out of here, but because that stuff in the head that we just saw is so short, Suzanne doesn't have any to use in bouquets today. And as you can see, this is just bouquet cutting.
Alice, the sunflower variety is Pro-Cut Orange, and the millet variety is
Limelight.
Limelight.
And that's all on our website. So this will go in our little itty bitty bucket of mixed stuff.
Don't walk through there again.
Her pouch for her clippers is a Felco. You can get them on Amazon. We no longer sell those.
All right, so now I'm going to move us down to the first zinnia bed.
And yes, you can save your own sunflower seeds, but the hybrids don't always come back the same, so we get fresh seed every season.
Barry, just walk through the flowers, bro.
And through my netting again.
The spoiled dog just goes wherever she wants to go.
So I said we're going to the zinnias, but actually we're going to do as I said earlier, the zinnias are the last things I cut. So many of them. Get in the cart. That would help solve things. She needs to go in.
Time for your nap already?
Yeah. Come on, come in and sit down. She's looking for snacks. She's just kind of crazy. All right, so we're gonna. There. All right. So let's cut all these miscellaneous varieties that aren't a whole lot of them. So first we're gonna go down here.
Good morning, Greg Key, you sweet thing.
So as you see, when I start the zinnias, you'll never stop. So this is a new variety, not a new variety, this is a variety of marigolds that I'm testing. It's a super inexpensive seed compared to what we have usually grown. And so we're just testing it out. I don't remember the name of it actually. And these are first cut. These were not pinched. So these are gonna be a mess to actually get cut. So we don't grow a lot of marigolds. People either love them or hate them. We do have one commercial customer that loves to use them because they're so long lasting and the smell does not bother them. But other customers, you know, it only takes a customer to get one complaint about odor and then that'll never be grown again, right? So we're gonna do just a little bit of popping around. See, just cut the wrong one. It happens, y'all. And so we're gonna now, where is the other marigold patch? Oh, I don't even see any marigolds over there. Okay. So this is it. Susie will use these in one of her bouquets. All right, so let's go on to some of these other, we already cut basil. Let's look at this Gomphrena, which is just getting started. And we do not net Gomphrena, and I go all the way down to the bottom. Because if you don't, it just grows into be a tangled darn mess. And this will get more and more developed as time goes on. And as Suzanne can tell you, there is nothing like a little ball in your bouquets. They just add something. See, the pink's not big enough yet. The purple is borderline. Again, she'll just really love to use these in her bouquets today. Just kind of nice to have a little something extra to pop in there. Because again, once everything gets really rolling, there are so many flowers to cut that you just get overwhelmed. So I like to stretch out the harvest by starting as early as possible. Like, you know, that's just one little flower, right? I would never sell that in a bunch commercially, but for Suzanne's bouquets, it'll be fine. So let's cut ageratum up here, and then we're gonna do these sunflowers. Cosmos are just ditched. So the ageratum is just starting. Interestingly enough, this half of the bed was the pinched from the first half of the bed and rooted. That's why it's kind of behind it. But again, I'm gonna cut some of these. Actually, I'm gonna just deadhead some. They're not really tall enough to use, and they'll be too open by the time they really get up there. But this is tall enough, and this is the stage I like to cut them in. They don't look like much, but you want them to get open and fuzzy in your customers. Ageratum is a really underused crop. People think it's not got a big bang, but it's just like bachelor buttons that who doesn't want a blue flower? When we were doing supermarket bouquets, blue changed everything on those bouquets. So some of these are just too short, so I'm just, while it's cool and this is why you shouldn't have so many flowers in your hand. See, this is too short. But we got to get it out of there for the other stems to really get going. The quicker you learn to throw stuff down, the better farmer you'll be. And notice, if you have branchiness in the netting you can't get up, hold it under the netting and strip there so you don't pull the netting up. You do not pull the netting up at any cost.
And the stage that you're cutting them in is
Really tight.
really tight before they've really started to get fuzzy.
Yeah, once they're fuzzy, they're on their way out. I mean, they're on downhill. And so you want to get them into, I'm not taking the time. So there's a grasshopper.
See, this one is a little further along, starting to get fuzzy, but still okay.
Yeah, you just don't want all of the flowers fuzzy. So for those guys just joining us, please head over at the end of the broadcast and sign up for my newsletter at thegardenersworkshop.com. And what you can do to help me keep doing these types of broadcasts is to like and share, particularly to share it on closed groups that you think might benefit that, you know. But Facebook is really getting going with the more and more groups. So we're gonna go jump these in a bucket and I'll come back and do that side, and then we're gonna get started on all these crazy zinnias. These are the queen. So now we're gonna have a summer mixed bucket along with our cool flowers mixed buckets.
Thank you, Darlene. She just shared it to the Ozark Flower Growers group.
Thank you. So, all of my broadcasts are always available on Lisa Live on my blog. There's a category that go to the blog, and at the top there's a list. If you just hit Lisa Live, all of the live broadcasts will be there. But when you like and share it, that saves it to your Facebook feed also. And so we just appreciate when people do that for us. We get a lot of views, and it's because of you people doing that for us, and I really appreciate it. Cutting out some centers here. They just aren't tall enough. So again, I just want to say these don't look real significant until you put them in a bouquet with orange and yellow and red. And for 4th of July, we used to sell tons of Azurata to our commercial customers. And once it starts to really open, it's just really, really beautiful. All right, so we're gonna. All right, I'm gonna let you take those back to the bucket. And I'm gonna jump over here and look at these sunflowers. This will be the first time we've cut, first time we've grown, and are cutting the white pro-cut sunflower. And I'm suspicious that it's gonna be buggy.
When you're putting things in your bucket, you always want to try to stand them up straight and make sure that all the feet are in the water. So always give them a little tussle to make sure that everybody's stem is getting water.
So I can already tell you that these are, let's look right here in the shade. Why are these buggier than all the rest? You can see the tips are brown. There was a couple of beetles in there. So we have to cut them at this tight stage. There's a cucumber beetle. We have a huge cucumber beetle problem right there. So we just kill them when we can. So this is the perfect stage to cut. And sometimes the yellow ones we let get a little more open, but I can tell you if we want any white ones, we're not gonna be able to do that. And what this means is I'm gonna walk this patch every morning looking to see if there's anything ready to cut. This is the green center white one. That's the brown one. They'll be really susceptible to bug damage. which means you got to get them out of here as soon as they're ready. So down here is this week's sunflowers. So you can just look down the row, and where you see yellow, I'm going to cut. I'll cut again tomorrow morning for commercial customers because these will really open up today. This is really perfect. And that was a tarnish bug, another bane of my existence. So I'm going to strip these right here in the garden. They're borderline tall enough to do this, but it just makes for faster work. So these that I'm cutting that are pretty tight will open indoors, and you minimize any pest damage by doing that. This is how I like to have them. Starting to lift, but what you soon find after you've gone through and cut all of them, you think that afternoon you're out here and there's so many sunflowers open, it's like, did I not cut them? They move so darn fast that we have to sometimes cut them a little tighter than we want. So all the sunflowers you've seen are all spaced the same, even though you see the variation in size. That is due to day length of light, and growing conditions, because again, we don't do any irrigation on sunflowers.
Again, Lisa's just going along and stripping the foliage off of these sunflowers, and then she'll come back up and cut every one that's stripped.
Leaving one leaf at the top.
Which your sister appreciates.
Yeah, that way they're ready to be used when they go in. See, tomorrow morning there'll be a boatload of these open. So every one that I can cut today,
And
one less I have to do tomorrow.
somebody wanted to see the netting up close, how it's attached. And it's just tightly put in, the stake is in place and it's just tightly on the stake. So really,
On the product on our store, if you just search our store net, it'll come up, and there's 2 videos on doing that, and it'll show you really up close too.
so now the hunt begins. She's going back down and looking for every one that doesn't have any leaves.
We're much quieter workers than we are.
And again, she is cutting these sunflowers to the length she needs them, as opposed to the ground. Because sometimes these can be as tall as us.
The sunflowers are really heavy. Every inch less of stem you can have in your hand. Typically, I can hold 20 at one time. A lot of times, when I'm not talking to people, I'm counting so that I can tell Suzanne, we have 26 bunches of 10, 260 sunflowers, so she doesn't have to count them to be able to tell, to have to make her list. This is not the case today. This one got missed. All right, I gotta go put these down. While I'm walking to the bucket, I'm cutting up stems evenly. I don't do a lot of standing still, if y'all haven't noticed that. And that's the difference between quick and not quick. And those are going in the bucket with the other big sunflowers. So I did cut and started to head now looking for the rest of these.
Hi, Hannah. She usually does a Facebook Live almost every week. Usually she'll post whether she's doing it or not and what time they will be airing. on our Facebook page.
You can actually set an alert on it's a setting on your Facebook to be alerted whenever we go live here on the farm.
And you can also go to her blog page, and there's a Lisa Live link that takes you to all of our previous Facebook Lives.
I think we're done. Here's one.
So you can see there's no yellow showing, except for this one, which is probably too far gone. Yeah, he's damaged, so we're going to leave him for the bugs, the pollinators.
All right, so now I'm going to start on.
I know this is the moment you've all been waiting for, the zinnia harvest.
And what you have to know is I very selectively harvest. See how there's so many voluptuous ones? Like this one is beautiful, but we don't need as many zinnias at the first of the week as we do at the end of the week. So I selectively choose. I choose those that'll be old by the end of the week. And you can go to the Learning Center on my website, and it'll have a video showing what's going on down in where I'm making the cut. And again, a lot of these are first cut. This is probably, what, the second or third harvest?
Yeah.
And I typically remove all the foliage. You know that orange is my favorite color, for anybody who doesn't know that. And it's also the favorite of one of my commercial customers. Here's the dilemma. This thing's gorgeous, but it still has a ways to go. And I have so many others, I'm leaving that. So it'll be a honkin' whopper on Friday for our well, I'll come on Thursday for our members only market. And the members only market is something that is just one of many ways to market your flowers. That's one of the things that we talk about in flower farming school, is just helping find what the fit is for your niche, what your life fits, you know, what you are available to do, how much time you have, where do you live? Are you in the middle of nowhere? Or are you in a metro? I'm in the second largest metropolitan area in Virginia, which gives me a lot of options. And you see I'm lining the tops up, and the bottoms are all cattywampus because I will cut them even when I'm walking to the bucket.
Terry wants to know how we sharpen our clippers.
We have somebody that does that. A person, that's their thing.
So
We don't do it in-house. Steve can do it, but there is someone that used to be at the farmer's market that would sharpen blades. See, these are just not big enough yet. Once the yellow stamens have popped, I know I have to cut them. That one hasn't yet. So that'll be a beauty on Thursday. Even though I would love to cut that one today, I just have too many others. You have to make choices. You have to stretch your crop out.
When we were growing high volume, a lot of these would have been cut.
Oh, we were desperate all the time for flowers. Our commercial customers that we service, you know, we gave up most of them. We cut them off. Really replace their Gerber daisy use with zinnias once they start. So as I'm walking, so the tops are pretty even. So I'm walking to the bucket. I'm just cutting them kind of. My buckets are kind of far away, but oh well. All one color.
You see how they all sit a little bit above the edge of the bucket. These 5-gallon buckets make for a really good length, and you just want to make sure they're all standing up straight, and they're easier to get out of the bucket when they're all about the same length too.
Again, when I'm cutting, I'm already looking at what am I cutting next while I'm standing here stripping.
And that's correct. We start all of our zinnias indoors.
Soil block.
With soil blocking, we only direct seed things that prefer to be started outdoors, which consists of a lot of cool season stuff.
We don't direct seed anything in spring and summer.
We want a viable plant for every hole, which is usually about 6 inches for most plants. Some are a little different, but
Talking about spacing.
yep.
All in Vegetables Love Flowers gives the whole, it's all there written why I choose different different widths based on what I'm doing with the flowers. Landscape versus cutting. A lot of these are the first cut. These zinnias were not pinched. You never have time to pinch zinnias, even in the tray.
Good morning, Roxanne.
And this is the greatest color. It's a rogue. A rogue is what shows up from time to time. This yellow shows up in orange, and there's another color sometimes I see it in. Maybe it's salmon. Would love for that to be a real color. And sometimes when I have blooms that just aren't big and beautiful, I just cut them and drop them. They aren't worth having. Not when you have this many to choose from. But if you don't cut them, they won't start regrowing.
Good morning, Robin from New Jersey.
This one looks a little old. This is the threat of not cutting everything. See how the center gets dark? It's too old. You can't sell that to anybody. I mean, you might put that on your dining room table, but you can't expect somebody to pay you for it. The flower bloom should be on the upswing, not the downswing. I just see my first spots of mildew. Mildew is always around. Oh, I forgot Kelly's here.
Oh,
today.
hi, Kelly. Kelly's here, yay. This
We're
is
on
her
Facebook
first
Live.
this is her first week of work in 2 days because her kids are finished with their homeschooling for the summer. And Lisa,
Will you put her in the house, please? She's tired. There's a brush next to the back door. You can just get the debris off of her.
Erin, Lisa's books tell you how to prepare
Never
soil,
mind.
and we do use a fork.
You can take those to the bucket.
Beautiful. Bobo's working over there. Barry's holding down the fort over here. And here we go into the bucket. And again, I just make sure everybody's feet get down in the water. Yes, we always harvest in the morning. The zinnias are the last of the harvest because they do benefit from having a little more sunshine under their belt before they get cut.
So while I'm standing here stripping all this mess, I'm looking where I'm going next. There's never any stopping and gazing at what do you cut next.
Somebody wants to know, on average, how many zinnias and sunflowers can you fit in one bucket?
60 zinnias and probably 100 sunflowers if they're cut well and even and without damaging them. Maybe 50 zinnias. You want to take these to the orange and I'll start. This is Carmine.
Okay. Good morning, Kristen from Wichita Falls, Texas. Here we go into the bucket.
Colors. These are Albanese giants, by the way. Some zinnia colors are more prolific. Orange and pink are particularly prolific. This is not pink. Is this coral or carmine?
I can never tell them apart.
I think this is carmine. And when I get a bloom like that, I mean, you just don't even need to keep it, or a single. And you'll notice that happens more in some colors than others.
Roxanne wants to know if there are flowers you prefer to bunch in the field.
Never.
In our dreams.
No, I mean, because
My
we
dreams.
do bouquets and straight bunches, that just never works out. And some people do, but I think I'm quicker doing the other way. And that really allows me to do quality control too. You know, what happens when you come to a bloom that you think, that might not be a commercial grade A, but it'd be great in a bouquet. That's what we face because we make so many bouquets. So that's why we don't do it. You know, and people, I know that Jenny Love, I don't think Jenny does hers that way. She doesn't sell commercially straight bunches, I don't think. So for us, in our system, and again, that's part of the process of going through where do you think you're going to be selling and what does that mean, how it affects everything you do, what you grow. You know, a lot of people are probably thinking right now, my gosh, all she grows is zinnias. That's not true. We do grow other things. That's all I have right now. I mean, primarily the big volume. But our markets, as we have backed off, after growing high production for 20 years, this is what people want. I grow what sells every week after week. And when you grow good quality, long-lasting zinnias, your commercial customers will even want them. Because you have to cut your flowers twice a week. So you have to have an outlet at the first of the week and at the end of the week. Commercial people at the first of the week and our retail customers at the end of the week.
Kristen says that her flower stems have dirt on them down low. Does she need to wash them off before she puts them in a bucket?
They shouldn't be getting dirty. You need to mulch or use film or something. That's a real added problem. There you go.
But what I would do is just put them in the bucket, and then once you get done harvesting, take them in and give them a swish around and then put them in a fresh bucket of water. Easiest way. These are one of my favorite colors. So beautiful. And we typically, when we have volume, we harvest the zinnias in separate buckets for every color. We normally do that for all flowers, but since we don't have a volume of these other flowers, they're getting in mixed buckets. But the zinnias we prefer in solid colors. They're better displayed like that for your farmer's market or for our on-farm market. And they just look beautiful that way. Joy wants to know, how do you keep from getting grass all over the flowers when you need it in the pathway?
From mowing? Is that what you do?
Yeah, or how do you keep it from getting up in the beds?
We don't keep it from getting up in the bed. You can show them right there.
You see it, they are up in the
I
beds
mow
a little
with a
bit.
mulch-
We do a mulching mower so it doesn't throw the seed. We mow with a mulching mower so it doesn't throw any seed from the grass.
Once the plants get this big, it doesn't matter about a little bit of grass sticking up in there. You know, it can't survive very much because it's not getting a lot of sun. So it kind of takes care of itself. I know that all these photos that I post looks perfect. But it's not. The edges are not clean. So.
Hi, Wendy. Yes, we sell seeds and sow seeds almost year round.
So I'm going to take these flowers in.
You're welcome, Joy. You're welcome, Melody. You're welcome, Robin.
So normally we would wait until all the buckets are full.
And this is where we have our on-farm market on Fridays. And I generally put all the tall buckets in the back and all the shorter buckets in the front. So when people walk in, they get a little stair step of all the flowers, which takes their breath away.
So then I'm going to mix these in with this bucket of zinnias that's not finished.
Okay.
The same buckets.
We generally only carry one bucket at a time.
Never by the handles.
Never by the handles, it chops heads off. So the zinnias are usually down front. And I'm sure you've seen pictures of the great view. So sorry I can't help you, sister. I gotta hold the camera. So sorry I can't help you.
I'm kind of used to it.
Set myself up for that one.
Sunflower buckets are really heavy.
Linda is sorry she's not here to help us. We are too.
All right, so then I just start the whole process over that you guys saw earlier. I grab 6 buckets, put them on the cart, fill them, put tablets in them, and go out there and finish cutting the zinnias and any other miscellaneous. So please remember to like and share this broadcast. That really helps me. And head on over to thegardenersworkshop.com. Sign up for our newsletter because we have big news happening around here this summer. We have a project that's almost confirmed that is just going to be so exciting, particularly if you're a flower farmer. And we just appreciate everybody. And let's see, the next Facebook Live is this Saturday at 7 p.m. And I'm going to try to do a walk around of the farm and we'll see what our Wi-Fi does. And it's just to be a general discussion. So I hope to see you there. And you can find the CVBN tablets on our website. You can buy them in bottles of 50. And you want to go to the Lisa Live on my blog and look at the Lisa Live talking about conditioning flowers. And I talk about why it's so important to use those. So till we meet again, ciao.